The President of the United States, Donald Trump, has signed an executive order that introduces sanctions against South Africa. The reasons for this sanction as put in the executive order issued by the White House. The first one being South Africa's case against Israel at the ICJ for their ongoing war crimes. And secondly, the executive order states, in a shocking disregard of its citizens' rights, the Republic of South Africa recently enacted Expropriation Act 13 of 2024 to enable the government of South Africa to seize ethnic minority Afrikaners' agricultural property without compensation. This act follows countless government policies designed to dismantle equal opportunity in employment, education and business, and hateful rhetoric and government actions fueling disproportionate violence against racially disfavored landowners. The racially disfavored landowners referred to here being white people or white Afrikaner farmers. The US states it shall take appropriate steps consistent with law to prioritize humanitarian relief, including admission and resettlement through the United States Refugee Admissions Program for Afrikaners in South Africa who are victims of unjust racial discrimination. Such plans shall be submitted to the President through the Assistant to the President and Homeland Security Advisor, directly quoting the executive order made by the White House. The first reason is understandable, as the USA is an ally of Israel. However, the second reason was the most bizarre out of this executive order. Due to Afrikaner nationalist movements lobbying to get the United States to intervene in what they claim is an ongoing genocide against white people in South Africa, specifically white farmers. They alleged that the ANC-led South African government is targeting Afrikaner farm owners and murdering them with the intention of taking their farmland. They've speculated that the farm murders in South Africa are tied to this secret government conspiracy to acquire land, and the ANC plans to use this recently enacted Expropriation Act 13 of 2024 to create what they believe would be a legal justification for them to confiscate the land of Afrikaner farmers without compensation. Essentially take the land of Afrikaner farmers forcefully. Their claims were even backed by someone like Elon Musk, who now has close ties to the US presidency. This led to Donald Trump making a statement on X, formerly known as Twitter. He made the statement, "South Africa is confiscating land and treating certain classes of people very badly. It is a bad situation that the radical left media doesn't want to so much as mention. A massive human rights violation at a minimum is happening for all to see. The United States won't stand for it. We will act. I will be cutting off all future funding to South Africa until a full investigation of this situation has been completed." Followed by this statement was the executive order sanctioning South Africa just a few days later. Looking at the wording of the executive order issued by the White House, it is quite evident that the certain classes of people that Donald Trump was referring to was actually white people or Afrikaner farmers. It's also without a doubt that this is a direct result of Afrikaner nationalist entities and other apartheid-reminiscent white people in South Africa, pushing the false narrative that there is an ongoing white genocide in South Africa. This massive blunder of theirs has led to political parties and businesses with vested interest in US relations, making statements to clarify that the recently enacted Expropriation Act of 2024 was not intended to confiscate the land of Afrikaner farmers.
Mr. Minnaar, thank you very much. Do you believe the US president is deliberately lying about South Africa?
We don't know where he gets this information from and who informs him. What we just see as farmers in South Africa is we don't see a confiscation of land. We don't see large-scale land grabs in South Africa. What we see is at this stage still very reasonable, as is any country in the world.
They also clarified that according to the bill, the government has no legal right to do that, unless there is some form of compensation or the land in question is going to be highly beneficial to the public. They even went further to state that they are not leaving South Africa or intend on leaving, as the Afrikaner community will not survive anywhere else in the world, which means that they were denying Donald Trump's offer to relocate to the United States. And when you look at it carefully, that statement is contrary to their claims of there being a threat to them and their way of life in South Africa, since they are saying that South Africa is the only land where their culture can be cultivated. The consequences of their action to lobby against the South African government have impacted all South Africans, and the outcome of those treasonous actions could be much more worse than they were. Yes, those actions could be regarded as treason. treason under South African law as defined by the Reuters Assemblies Act of 1956, among other statutes, includes actions such as instigating for an intervention in internal affairs with the intentions to harm the state. Looking at these tweets made by members of Afrikaner nationalist movement, their plans were for US President Donald Trump to only sanction ANC officials. However, it led to the whole of South Africa getting punished, which is clearly a result of them calling for foreign intervention in internal affairs with the intentions of harming the state. The only thing they got in return for their actions is refugee status as asylum seekers. A disappointing result, as none of them intended on leaving South Africa or the privileges and riches that it has afforded them since the apartheid era. Although this sanction doesn't affect any major economic or trade agreements that South Africa currently has with the United States, the fact that the sitting president of the United States and his administration went as far as sanctioning South Africa over misinformation and rhetoric spread by hateful and divisive entities to further their interest in South Africa, as well as a blatant lack of research or understanding into South African laws or their purposes, means that the potential for the US government to introduce even more harsher sanctions on South Africa is even higher. So much so that President Cyril Ramaphosa had to make this statement.
Matters of importance are discussed properly behind closed doors, so I'm not going to get into the mud. And with regard to the United States is a very important player on the global stage. They're the biggest economy and they are our very important trading partner. So we intend to deal with them in a formal way and in proper engagement. And as I said, I'm going to be sending a delegation to the world, on our own continent, to Europe, to the Americas, and to Asia, to the Middle East, to go and explain our position.
So this is where we are in terms of international affairs between the US and South Africa. How do you guys think this is going to turn out, and how do you all think it will affect the relations between the US and South Africa?
We will not be deterred. We are, as South Africans, a resilient people, and we will not be bullied